If you want to visit California, stick around for this episode. Here's a 30-second teaser.
It's what I call a land of extremes. We have the tallest mountain and we have the lowest point in the United States, which is also the hottest place on Earth. We also have the tallest trees in the world and the largest tree by volume.
I definitely think that those little small beach towns are the best part of California. I'll drive through a place where I don't even know the name of it, and I'm like, this is the cutest, most friendly town I've ever been to in my whole life. People from all over the world come to live here, and they're making the food from back home, and it is so good. So definitely expand your palate when you come to California.
You could take the Coast Starlight train from San Francisco to LA. It's very scenic. It goes along the ocean.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Travel Lemming podcast. I'm your host, Betty Hurd, and this is the podcast where we prepare you to be a better traveler by giving you local perspectives on destinations around the world. My guest today is a world traveler born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, where she is currently based. You've seen her a few times here on the Travel Lemming podcast. Welcome to the show, Laura McFarlane.
Hi, Betty. It's great to be back.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you back here. Laura and I discussed her home in San Francisco just a few episodes back. So if San Francisco is one of your top California destinations, you definitely need to give that episode a listen. Today, we're branching out beyond the Bay and discussing the whole of California. And since Laura has traveled to so many different areas of the state, we thought who better to be our West Coast expert for this episode. She was also the main speaker on that topic for our Western USA Road Trips episode. So that's another one I recommend listening to after this if you plan to drive through California. We give some great recommendations for sights to see and how to navigate the roads in the Golden State. And if you like the Travel Lemming podcast, new episodes are posted on Thursdays. So tune in with us every show by liking and subscribing to our channel wherever you get your podcasts. So Laura, tell our listeners a little bit more about you and why you're a California expert.
Yeah, I'm Laura. Like Betty said, I live in San Francisco currently, but I just got back from a year-long trip around Australia, New Zealand, and Asia. I am a senior travel writer here at Travel Lemming, and I write primarily about my home state of California.
So can you give us a bit of background on your California knowledge?
Yeah, of course. I was born and raised here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I grew up about an hour outside of the city, and then I stayed in the Bay Area for college and moved to San Francisco soon after that. While I was in college, I started doing a lot of road trips. I worked part-time over the summers, and so I would just spend every weekend trying to explore somewhere new that I'd never seen before, and sometimes driving like 6 to 8 hours in one weekend just to go see somewhere new in a different part of the state. So I've traveled at this point around pretty much every single part of California. I think if you look at all the pictures that I've taken, they would probably cover a map of the whole state of California. I've been to all of the national parks. I have driven California from the bottom in San Diego all the way up to the top border with Oregon. I'm also just a huge geography nerd and I love looking at maps. So like in my free time, I will just like look at a map of California and pick out like new places to go that I haven't been. So I'm kind of obsessed with discovering every part of the state.
Well, and you could fill a lifetime with it. I mean, California is massive. It's bigger than so many countries in the world. It's just like a whole world on its own. So excited to get to talk to you about it today. And the format of the show is always pretty similar. I like to start with a very basic elevator pitch. Why should someone travel to California?
I think the natural beauty is what really sets California apart from the rest. It's what I call a land of extremes. We have the tallest mountain in the contiguous United States, and then just an hour away, we have the lowest point in the United States, which is also the hottest place on Earth. And we also have the tallest trees in the world, which is the redwood tree. And we also have the largest tree by volume, which is the sequoia tree. And those two trees only grow in California in different places. So yeah, you can just see so many different landscapes in the state. And I don't really know anywhere else where you can see such starkly different places and environments in just a short drive.
So true. And we will talk a little bit more about those national parks later in the episode.
I also would really recommend visiting California for the cities. LA, San Francisco, and San Diego are kind of the three most popular cities that people visit, and they each are just so different. They have something different to offer for everyone. San Francisco is in Northern California. Obviously, I'm very biased, but it's my favorite city in California. LA is really famous for like the entertainment industry and Hollywood and beautiful beaches. And then San Diego is really famous for being like a beach city with lots of gorgeous natural beauty and really, really good Mexican food because it is on the border with Mexico. So you have a lot of that like Mexican culture influence in San Diego as well. The third reason that I think you should visit California is because of the food. The food and wine here is incredible. Like we have some of the most famous wine producing regions in the world in like Napa Valley. And then we also have the whole Central Valley of California is dedicated to producing like fresh produce and agriculture. And so all of our food is just really fresh and usually locals, you could spend a whole trip just focused on the food and wine in California.
Yeah, I just moved to Los Angeles from Arizona, and I've never seen so many farmers markets in my life. I'm so not used to this, but it's every single week they'll shut down entire streets and just have all this local produce. Everything's so fresh. They've picked the berries, they've harvested all this stuff that day. And it's one of my favorite things about living in California. I think that's pretty common, and at least in the big cities, that they'll just really put a big emphasis on buying and eating local.
I think it's something I really took for granted for most of my life until I started traveling to other places around the US where you might not get fresh produce year round because of the climate, but you can in
Oh, yeah.
California.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see it in many other places.
I think the final reason to visit California is it is a very welcoming and accepting place. I mean, California is an extremely diverse place. We have a lot of immigrants. It's a very welcoming place for the LGBTQ population. Obviously, it has its troubles in certain areas, and certain areas maybe aren't as accepting as others. But overall, as a state, I think our diversity makes us amazing and really strong.
Completely agree. Can you describe California on a map so that listeners who might not really know about it can picture the layout of the state?
Yes, absolutely. And I will try not to go into too much detail here. So California is huge. The West Coast is all the Pacific Ocean. So this is where you have beaches and most of the biggest cities. Starting down south, you have San Diego, which is warm climate, warm water, palm trees, desert. Then you have LA. And then further up the coast, you eventually get to San Francisco. So all three of those cities are coastal cities. And again, the further south you are, the more like desertous and like kind of classic California, like palm tree vibe it is along the ocean. And then the further north you go, it's more small towns. There's really not another big city after San Francisco on the Northern California coast, but you can drive for 5 more hours up the Northern California coast after San Francisco, and it's still California. So up north, you get a lot more like redwood trees, forest, fog, little misty. It's very like rugged and remote, and it's very gorgeous. Once you move away from the coast, you're in the Central Valley. So the center of California is like the agricultural area. This is where the valley has some of like the most fertile soil in the United States. And so we produce like 70% of the country's fruit and nuts and like 30% of the country's vegetables. So anytime you're driving in the Central Valley of California, it is all like small farming towns, except with the exception of the capital, Sacramento, which is in like the Central Valley, but in northern Central Valley. The very resource heavy area. We get a lot of our agriculture and oil from this area. And then on the eastern border of California, which is our border with Nevada and Arizona, you have the Sierra Nevada mountains. So this is a huge mountain range. It stretches for practically the whole state, and it has like alpine lakes, ski resorts, mountain towns, tons of really, really famous hiking and national parks like Yosemite National Park, Sequoia National Park, Kings Canyon. It also has a lot of cool, small like towns in the foothills before the mountains, which is where the gold rush happened. And that was a huge reason for immigration to California. So you can go and explore all these little gold rush towns that just have a lot of like California's history in them. So that's also a really cool area to explore. And then the eastern part of Southern California, so like below the Sierra Nevada mountains, is just the desert. So there's like some national parks, and a lot of it is just really, really cool desert to explore.
Yeah, a lot of ground to cover, so much to see, so much to do, a little something for everyone, which makes this next question pretty hard. What are the best things to do in California?
Okay. Cities, the best places to visit are San Diego, LA, San Francisco, and then the surrounding areas of those. Those are kind of the main three cities that tourists tend to come visit. National parks. You also have to see the national parks while you're in California. We have 9, but I would say 5 of them are what I would call like must-see national parks. So that's going to be Yosemite, Sequoia, Death Valley, Joshua Tree, and Redwood. Those are like really, really unique areas where I feel like you can't see them really anywhere else in the world. And so those would be, if you're short on time, you can't visit all the national parks, try to hit those 5. Wine tasting is another one of the best things to do in California. Again, like I mentioned, we have really famous wine areas. Napa Valley is the most famous, but Sonoma, Paso Robles, Santa Barbara, and Temecula are also famous in their own ways. And then just doing like general local food tours. I just read about what they called the California Cheese Trail, which now I'm like, I have to go do that. And you just drive around to different local cheese farms around the state.
Oh my God, I need to do that too.
I would say another one of the best things to do would be road tripping Highway 1. So I feel like a lot of people have heard of Highway 1. It's this highway that goes all the way from the bottom of the state up to the top. along the ocean pretty much the entire way. So you get these gorgeous views where, ocean to your right, mountains to your left. You're driving through famous spots like San Diego, LA, like all the small towns. And you just really should road trip Highway 1 if you're in California for the first time.
Yeah, we talk extensively about Highway 1. Laura goes into a little bit more detail on some of the best stops along there too, so you can listen to that, since obviously we can't get super in depth for this entire episode. But yes, that's our Western USA road trips episode, just a couple back.
Yeah. And then besides the big cities, I would say you should try to explore some of the coastal towns because they just have such a different vibe than the big cities. Coastal towns like Mendocino, Santa Cruz, Monterey, Huntington Beach, Newport Beach down south. There's kind of a big difference between Northern California coastal towns and Southern California coastal towns, just because the Northern California coastal towns are a lot more remote because they're further from a big city. Whereas when you're in Southern California, like if you're in a beach town, you're pretty much always like less than 2 hours from either LA or San Diego. So it's a lot more populous. There's a lot more accommodation options, but like, again, it's just going to be a lot more crowded. Whereas if you want to see like a really rugged and remote coastal town, like go up to Northern California. And then once you're done exploring the coast, you should really get into the mountains. So I talked a little bit about national parks like Yosemite and Sequoia in the Sierra Nevada mountains, but there's also lakes. So like Lake Tahoe is the largest alpine lake in North America. That's up about 4 hours from San Francisco into the mountains. It's one of my favorite places. I go every year. And then down in Southern California, Big Bear Lake is also really popular. And then we also have cool mountains up north that are like former volcanoes. So Mount Lassen and Mount Shasta are both volcanic zones. And so the vibe of those mountains is very different than the vibe of the Sierra Nevada mountains. And there's just all these cool little mountain towns in between. So much to do.
Yeah, a great like bullet point list there. Obviously, like I said, we don't have a lifetime to talk about everything there is to do in California, but Laura has written extensive guides and articles on travel lemming. So if you want to do a deeper dive into everything that we're talking about after the episode, check out travellemming.com, type in California, and she's got so much content on there for you to look into these things to do a little bit more. So, out of all these awesome things that you've just described, what are your personal top 5 attractions in all of California?
So my top 5 attractions for California, if you are visiting for the first time and you have like 1 week to just hit the top five, I would say go to San Francisco, go to LA, go to Yosemite National Park, road trip part of Highway 1. The part in Big Sur is really popular. That's a good place to do it. And then also try to go out to the desert. You will see like Joshua Tree National Park or Anza Borrego State Park is also a really cool place to see that like desert flora and fauna. And that'll kind of get you a good coverage of like some of the major cities as well as the mountains in Yosemite, the coast with Highway 1, and the desert with Joshua Tree.
Yeah, it's a nice little California cocktail right there. Can you share a few hidden gems that visitors might miss without your local insight?
Absolutely. I think the hidden gems are the parts that I enjoy visiting the most just because like Yosemite is amazing. It's a beautiful national park. It is also the most touristy place in the summertime. Like it's just packed. It kind of makes the vibe of the mountains. You feel a little less like removed from everything because you're standing just around all these people that are visiting as well. It's amazing. You should still go. But like the hidden gems of California, I think are what make this place so special. I love far northern California. So the Trinity Alps is this like beautiful backcountry hiking, literally looks alpine. It looks like you're in Switzerland. You have to backpack there. So this is for if you're like really rugged and outdoorsy. But next to the Trinity Alps, there's also this place called the Lost Coast, which again, very rugged. It is the largest stretch of undeveloped land in California. And you can only access it by like hiking along the beach. And it's just this beautiful like stretch of rock, beach, and forest. And it looks like magical. Mount Lassen also is a really cool like national park up in far northern California. It's a volcano. It's a really easy mountain to summit and get like really good views around. So anywhere in that area, like around Redding and the surrounding area, like tourists never go there. If they do, there's not a lot of them. It's like beautiful natural beauty up there. So far northern California is a hidden gem for sure. Also on the topic of mountains, if you go on the eastern Sierra Nevada, so up Highway 395, you'll go past Death Valley National Park, which again is, like I mentioned, the lowest point in the United States and the hottest place on earth. So you got to see it. Just don't go in the summertime. And then also, if you're driving up Highway 395, you'll see the backside of all the Sierra Nevada mountains. And you can see the backside of like Mount Whitney, which is the tallest mountain. And you can go through all these really tiny mountain towns. And it's like kind of a trek to get there. So it's never crowded. And it's just, there's a lot less people, and you could do these beautiful, beautiful hikes and not see another single soul. And it's just amazing. My personal favorite, like this is a really hidden gem that just not a lot of people, even in California, go to, but all the gold rush towns. You can take what's called the Gold Rush Trail and just drive Highway 49, and it'll take you through all these really small towns in the foothills of the mountains, like Columbia, Jamestown, Angels Camp, Nevada City. And these all are like the remains of old gold rush towns. And so it's a really historic area. You can actually pan for gold in Columbia. That's a fun thing that I had to do as a field trip when I was a little kid. And then Nevada City is my favorite one of these towns. It has this beautiful river called the Yuba River. It's like a super great local swimming pool spot. And just all the things with the gold rush towns, it's like old buildings, kind of old timey vibe there. It's just really cool. And it's kind of a forgotten part of California, but it's really what kickstarted like immigration from the eastern United States over into California in the 1800s was the gold rush. My final hidden gem is visiting the central coast of California. Again, a lot of people skip over this area because they're just so focused on going from San Francisco to LA or vice versa. But the areas around San Luis Obispo have really, really cute small beach towns. So like Pismo Beach is really fun. Morro Bay and Cayucos are really cool, like small fishing towns. And it's just like beautiful, beautiful beaches. It's not as cold as Northern California, but it's not as crowded as Southern California. It's kind of this like Goldilocks spot in the middle. And it's surrounded by all these rolling hills and farmland. And San Luis Obispo is a really fun college town because there's a college there. So you can go to like the downtown has a lot of farmers markets and bars and like boutiques. And it's a really fun place to explore for a few days.
I love that. Yeah, I definitely think that those little small beach towns are the best part of California. At least for me, like every road trip I've ever taken, I'll drive through a place where I don't even know the name of it, and I'm like, this is the cutest, most like adorable, friendly town I've ever been to in my whole life. And I'm more versed in the ones that are in Southern California. And like you said before, they're more populated. A lot of those spots are expensive and are just a home to a bunch of celebrities and like rich people's vacation homes. But they are really like such cool sights to see because they have like these crazy mansions built into the hillsides. And it's just fun to drive through things like that. I love the beach towns in California all the way up the coast. And like you said, huge variety from south to north.
You mentioned
Right.
crazy mansions built into the hillside, which means I want to plug something that's also in the Central Coast around that San Luis Obispo area. You can go visit Hearst Castle, which is this like super opulent, crazy mansion that this guy, William Randolph Hearst, built in like the early 1900s. It's just like in the mountains, no other houses around it. You can go and do tours of the gardens. It's kind of like if you're like visiting Paris and you visit like the Palace of Versailles, like that's what this feels like. Is it's just like
Really?
this crazy huge mansion with gardens and a swimming pool and all this stuff, and it's completely open to the public because no one lives there. It's just a museum now. So if you go to the Central Coast, go to Hearst Castle. It's really cool.
That is so cool. That kind of reminds me of the Getty Villa, which is in
Mhm.
LA, where they've just imported all of these statues and old relics from all over the world, but especially Greece. And they have like these pools, and you feel like you're in this Mediterranean garden, and there's like ancient statues all around you. And it's so crazy. And it just feels like you're in a completely different country. But there's weird things like that all over California. There's so much wealth and people who have brought their wealth with them and like shared it with the public, which is awesome. So yeah, definitely a lot of quirky things. It's so hard to talk about this state for just one episode because you just can't cover it all. But moving right along, where is the best place to stay for someone's first time in California?
I think that you should base yourself in one of the cities. I know we haven't gotten the chance to talk really in depth about like LA or San Diego or San Francisco just because there's not enough time and we're talking about the whole state. But we do have so many articles on Travel Lemming devoted it only to like where are the best places to stay in LA, what are things to do in LA, different
Hmm.
neighborhoods of LA, San Diego, San Francisco. So really check those out if you're looking to get more like city specific information. So I do think, going right back to your question, Betty, that for someone who's never been to California, you should try to base yourself in one of the main cities of either LA, San Francisco, or San Diego. There's going to be a lot of like hotels and accommodation here. And it's going to be because there's so many types of accommodation, you should be able to find something for all kinds of price points just because there's going to be the most options for accommodation in cities. Also, like places that are really touristy, like Yosemite or Napa Valley or like anywhere along the Southern California coast, usually also have a good amount of accommodation just because like they are tourist hotspots. I would recommend staying in a hotel when you're in the cities and then trying to find a boutique B&B or inn somewhere along the coast because usually you can find a nice like seaside cottage and that's much nicer than staying in like a big hotel on the coast.
And California is notoriously pricey, as pretty much everyone knows. Is there an area or city you recommend staying in California for visitors who are on a tight budget?
Yeah, that is tough. I would say sometimes the major cities can have hostels. So if you're looking to be on a budget and explore some of the major cities, I know like San Francisco has a couple of really great hostels where you can get a room for like $50 a night as opposed to a hotel for like 200 a night. I would also recommend using your budget as an excuse to go explore all the small towns and off the beaten path destinations. You can see so many of like the cool smaller parts of California and you'll save so much money because they're just not price jacking like the really tourist hotspots. If you want to go wine tasting, don't go to Napa Valley. It's going to be really expensive. Go to Paso Robles instead. It is much less expensive. The wine is still really good. Accommodation is much less pricey as well. I would also recommend camping in a lot of places. Like California has pretty good weather year round, so you can camp kind of year round. Don't try to camp in the winter in the mountains. It's not worth it. It's snowy. You can camp on the coast in the winter though. But campsites are cheap. National parks all have campgrounds. State parks have campgrounds. They're all going to be like $30 a night around or cheaper. You can also use this app called HipCamp where people can rent out their private property for you to camp on, or sometimes they'll have like glamping tents or yurts that they can rent out. I did that up in Redwood National Park. I stayed on someone's property in like a glamping tent that she had, and it was like $40 a night. And it was so fun and so awesome and way better than a hotel.
Oh, that's amazing. I've never heard of that before. You said it's called Hip Camp?
Yes, I'm a big
Okay.
HipCamp user. I would plug it.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, we'll link that for sure. Are there any other notable places you recommend staying in California?
I think if you're someone who enjoys the finer things in life and you're looking to stay in maybe like a bougier or nicer hotel, California has some really incredible resorts that you should definitely check out. There's a lot of really nice resorts out in Palm Springs. You can get like spa treatments. You're out in the desert. There's lots of like golf courses with these like just lined by palm trees. It's really beautiful. The Alila Ventana in Big Sur is this like really famous resort along the coast, just like with these sweeping views of the ocean. And again, like hot springs and spas. The Auberge du Soleil in Napa is like 5-star hotel with amazing food, like just right in the middle of wine country. And then there's also some nice hotels on Catalina Island, which is an island off the coast of LA that you can get to by ferry in like 2 hours. And Catalina Island is like really popular if you're trying to like be a little fancy.
So just kind of roll all of that together. Do you recommend, since it's such a big state with so many different environments, basically kind of picking the kind of landscape you're going for and the kind of budget and go from there?
I think it really depends on the amount of time that you have because I do think that if you visit California and you only stay in LA, you haven't really seen all of California because San Francisco and Northern California is so different than Southern
Mhm.
California. If you have the time, I would recommend trying to see parts of Northern California as well as Southern California. But for basing yourself in a city and then doing day trips, I think that's a really good idea if you are short on time. Like you could base yourself in San Francisco and do day trips to wine country, day trips to the redwoods, a day trip to Yosemite. And then if you wanted to like drive or fly down to LA, then you could do a day trip to the desert and like and then just take a few days and explore LA, maybe do a day trip to San Diego while you're at it.
Yeah, California is just so big and it's worthy of multiple visits. You just can't put a dent in it with just a couple. So you gotta come back a few times to really get a taste of all the different areas. So we've talked about things to do and places to stay, and I want to tie that together with the topic of safety. Is California safe, and what should travelers look out for when they visit?
I think California is safe. I think that if you have common sense, you will be fine. The biggest thing to look out for is when you're in a big city, just again, have common sense. Look up. Don't leave anything in your car. I would recommend not leaving your suitcase in your car in a big city. I wouldn't park with all of your stuff in it and then go to the beach for a few hours and then come back. Like, we've had issues with car break ins in major cities like LA and San Francisco. So I would just like, if you land and you have your luggage with you, just go to your hotel first, drop everything off. Like, try not to go places and leave a bunch of stuff in your car in the big cities. When you're in smaller towns, like, you should be fine. I would also make sure to research the neighborhoods in big cities. Like, there are neighborhoods in San Francisco that I wouldn't advise a tourist to go to. I know there are also still some neighborhoods in LA that maybe have more prevalence of like gang violence is still a thing some places. So just maybe do a little like quick Google search ahead of time before you go to LA or San Francisco or San Diego and be like, what's the vibe of all these different neighborhoods?
Yeah, I think people just kind of roll these cities into one and they'll hear some things, some safety issues about one place and then think that applies to the whole thing. And we talked extensively about this in our San Francisco episode. But, like, for me, I live on a very busy street in Los Angeles, and I go walking at night, and I never feel unsafe, but that's because I'm also avoiding any kind of sketchy areas, and I just keep my general wits about me, and I really think that's about as far as you need to go to really feel safe. Obviously, there are some areas of town that you probably don't wanna walk around at night at, but, yeah, I agree with you. I do think that as a whole, California is safe.
Yeah, and I think that especially in the cities, like you were saying, the crime is very like consolidated into like a specific area usually. Like I live maybe 15 minutes walk from like the bad part of San Francisco, quote unquote. Like I don't think it's that bad, but it's what tourists would be like, and I feel
Yeah.
fine. Like I feel so fine all the time. So just again, like be smart. Don't have your head buried in your phone. Don't carry around like really, really crazy expensive things and like not be paying attention. Like just be smart, be a smart traveler, research the cities ahead of time. Okay, I would say something that maybe not a lot of people know about California is that certain areas of the Central Valley, like the bigger cities in the Central Valley, have had some issues with like drug usage and like drug smuggling and stuff. So like in certain small towns or like different areas of the Central Valley, I would like maybe be a little more like heads up, like know kind of the vibe of where you're at, just because there are some places in the Central Valley that just kind of have a little bit of a bad reputation. So just maybe look Google it ahead of time. Something else that I want to touch on that not a lot of people know about is if you're driving in Northern California, you will pass through what is called the state of Jefferson. And this is an area of California that wants to secede from the rest of California. And so I see a lot of like, don't tread on me flags and like, leave me alone kind of vibe. So I wouldn't be like an obvious tourist in the state of Jefferson. Like, it's totally fine, it's totally safe. But like, don't go there and be like, we love the California government, because that should be like, no, like we actively want to get away from the California government. So
I've
like,
never heard of this.
yeah, it's
Jefferson? State of
the state of
Jefferson?
Jefferson. It's really small. It's like not a huge contingent of people. It's like mostly farmers and ranchers. And it's again like far in Northern California. And so you're not likely to like spend, there's not like a tourist attraction there, but if you're driving through it, it's like a fun little thing to be aware of like, okay, this is the area of California that doesn't want to be part of the rest of California.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, and that's something else I want to touch on the topic of California safety, just for more like current events. Right now, there are a lot of protests in LA because the federal government has sent in ICE, the Immigration Enforcement Agency, to crack down and deport a lot of people living in LA. Some people that are undocumented, some people that are here on a visa, here totally legally. It's been very disruptive to everyone's lives. It's been very difficult to watch for a lot of people, and there have been a lot of major protests against ICE in LA. So that if you're traveling in LA, you might want to be aware of where protests are happening, especially if you're an immigrant and you're traveling in California. Just be safe, be aware, know your rights, all that stuff. But just a good thing to know, just like even in the future after protests, and just to kind of keep up with current events, because California, usually there's a lot of political activity happening. And so you want to be aware of what kinds of things are going on in the places that you're visiting.
Yeah, I think that's a very good note to make. And, I have not felt unsafe at all where I am. And I think if you are traveling through California, we tend to be more outspoken about, issues in the nation. And I think that a lot of times when it's covered by the news, it kind of comes off like the whole city is, what's the word?
Going up in flames or something.
Yeah, like the whole city's gone under and it's just not the truth. So, you know, definitely get your news from multiple sources if you're planning on visiting. And I would just say, I don't think that you should feel unsafe visiting these major places. And my parents just came to visit and they had kind of that mindset too because of everything that they'd been hearing. And, they were like, wow, this is so different from what we expected. We felt absolutely fine here. So just a note to make.
Yeah, and a lot of times the reason that people are protesting is because we love our city and we love our neighbors. And it's coming
Exactly.
out of we want to take care of people. So we'll just leave it at that.
All very valid points for a safe trip to California. So now, when is the best time of year to visit California?
Okay, you can really visit California any time of year because again, we have like pretty temperate weather year round. Winter in LA is still like 65 and sunny, so it's going to be much nicer than if you're on the East Coast. But my hot take for the actual like best month to visit California is September. I think that summer is really crowded because a lot of people summer is very touristy in California, especially in Southern California, but you can get really nice beach weather, like beautiful warm weather still in September and October if you come then. And it won't have started snowing in the mountains yet. So you could still do all this like wonderful hiking. You can go see Yosemite. You can do all this stuff without having to worry about the snow because it hasn't started. And also, September and October are the best months of the year to visit Northern California because San Francisco and far Northern California get really foggy in the summertime because it's so hot inland. The marine layer like brings fog in on the coast. And so when you visit in the fall, the fog isn't as big of a deal. So you'll have a much better time sightseeing in San Francisco and in places along the coast of Northern California because you won't have the fog. So I think September is a great month.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, especially about the crowds. I can vouch for that. When I first moved here, it was in February, and gosh, Southern California is just so amazing with the weather. Like it's right now, it's July and it is 68 degrees out all day, and I can go walking any time of day and it's amazing. But so different now with the crowds. Like I will try to go out to a semi-popular beach here now on a weekday evening and I cannot find a parking spot for an hour because everyone
Mhm.
is coming here to enjoy the beach weather for the summertime while, the kids are out of school, and it just kind of takes away from the beauty of it. So if you can come in that kind of off season when the weather is still lovely, I highly recommend that as well.
Yeah, April, May also really good shoulder season wise. Like April and May are going to have really nice weather in LA. It's going to be crisp and clear in Northern California, not foggy yet, but not super warm. The only thing is that if you visit in the springtime, the mountains will be super snowy. You can do some great spring skiing or snowshoeing if you're into snow sports, but you will need to, know how to drive in the snow because if you visit the Sierra Nevada mountains, there's going to be snow in April.
How much time do you recommend someone set aside for their visit to California?
I mean, like we've been talking about, you could be here for months and still not see everything. If you want to see just the hot spots, 1 week. If you want a more complete picture, you should spend like 10 days to 2 weeks. And if you want to like see all the hidden gems that we've talked about and go like full, like top to bottom in California, I would spend 3 weeks.
Yeah. And you can absolutely come to California for a weekend too. I mean, every place that you go, at least in the major cities, there's so much to do that you can just jam pack your time, even if it's just for a couple of days and you're going to have a great time. And then you can always come back just a whole bunch of times, do different things. But I definitely recommend at least a week to kind of relax and settle into the way of life here.
And that's a really good point that you could just come and base yourself out of one of the major cities for just a long weekend. Like San Francisco, LA, and San Diego all have international airports. So if you wanted to, like you could come and just visit San Diego and LA for a long weekend, or just visit San Francisco and Northern California for a long weekend. That is totally doable. But I would say if you wanted to do like both San Francisco and LA and do like a few of the things around them, then you should allow at least a week.
And on that note, what are the best ways to get around California, transportation wise?
Yeah. So unfortunately, we in America do not have a high speed rail network the way that places in other countries around the world do. So car is going to be your best way to get around California. It takes about like 6 hours to drive from San Francisco to LA. It's about 12 hours to drive the whole length of California. Like California is very big. So yeah, you will probably want to rent a car. You should be aware that the traffic in LA is so bad. Betty, I'm sure you can vouch for this, but the
Oh my God,
traffic
yeah.
LA is a sprawling city. It's not a compact city. It will take you like probably an hour, 2 hours in traffic to get from one end of LA to the other.
It completely depends on the time of day and really kind of the time of year. I mean, like I said, now summertime, it's not just the locals, but it's all these people visiting. There's so much more traffic for longer periods of time throughout the day. But I mean, our rush hour kind of starts as early as like 2 p.m. and goes
Yeah.
to probably like 7 p.m. And you have the early morning rush hour as well. It's not as bad as the afternoon. But the way that some of these cities are set up, I can't really speak for San Francisco. I lived there very briefly, like 9 months, and I never had as bad of problems driving in San Francisco. But LA is just kind of like a gridlock. Like we have our big freeways, But then like Google Maps will take you on this wild side street route where you're taking like, this zigzagging path to your destination. And then everybody else is doing that too. So it's like you just can't win. And so it really does test your patience. But, if you can just take a deep breath, you'll get through the traffic here. I just recommend trying to kind of, wherever you go, trying not to drive super far away from your home base, kind of trying to stay in your bubble so you can avoid that as much as possible.
Yeah, the traffic in LA is no joke. I think one of the reasons for that is because, not to poo poo on LA, but there's bad public transportation. Like, there is not enough
Yeah.
public transportation in LA. I know they're trying to fix that ahead of the Olympics. So I'm really looking
Yeah.
forward to seeing how LA like improves their public transportation.
Where are they going to put people for the Olympics? I am so
I
concerned.
don't
Like,
know.
they don't have anywhere to park here as it is. And then they're going to bring in all these countries from around the world. And I'm just very intrigued to see how it all happens. But I'm sure they'll figure out something.
There's like that one meme that's like the European mind cannot comprehend the freeway system of LA. Like
Like, where
it
am
is
I?
gridlock, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes.
But the good news is that like San Francisco does have a really good public transportation system. So like personally, I don't think you need to rent a car in San Francisco. I do think that you need to have a car in LA. San Diego, I can't speak as much to. I think there's like just fine public transportation like to get to the main spots, but if you want to like go to the cool beaches, you should have a car. Um,
Yeah, I recommend
yeah,
a car in San Diego too, for sure.
yeah. But that's kind of it, like car related stuff. I will say we do have a train, the Amtrak. It's not very efficient and it kind of only goes like two routes, but you could take the Coast Starlight train from San Francisco to LA. It's very scenic. It goes along the ocean. It takes a while, but if you don't want to drive from San Francisco to LA, like you can opt to take a really lovely train ride instead. So we do have limited regional public transportation.
Yeah, I've actually taken the Amtrak. I wrote an article about it on Travel Lemming, about, saving your gas money and taking the Amtrak. I took it from Los Angeles to Carlsbad, which is, on the way down to San Diego. And if you're not in a super big rush, or if you want to take, like, purposely want to take the scenic route, I highly recommend it. It was so enjoyable and so stress-free not having to drive in the traffic on the freeways. So I really do think, like, if you want to kind of plan your trip around the stops that are close to those train stops, you can go really anywhere. Like you said, you can go from the very bottom in San Diego all the way up to San Francisco and north of that. So I think, yeah, like you said, the trains are not very efficient, but very scenic, and you can just take it easy if you want to go that way.
And they're comfortable. Like I've ridden Amtrak before. It is comfortable. There's Wi-Fi on board. There's like food and drink carts. Like it's a nice ride.
Like the most enjoyable mode of transportation I've ever taken.
Yes, arguably.
Yeah,
I wish we had more trains.
I know. Maybe someday. Now on to trying local cuisine. Are there any dishes or drinks famous to California?
It's really funny that the first thing that popped into my mind was the Mexican food in California because like Mexico is a whole different country, but we really do. We have a huge Hispanic population in California. So you can get like probably the best Mexican food outside of Mexico is in California, I would say. I don't know. Is that wrong, Betty?
I'm biased because I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, which I think is the best Mexican food ever. But I have had some Mexican food since moving to California that has really blown me away, and I I'm still not gonna say it's better than Arizona, but that's just me. No, there, like you said, there's such a strong Hispanic population, so there's really, really good Mexican food here.
I would say you definitely have to try Mexican food when you're in California. Get like go to a taqueria, go to a food truck. Food trucks have usually really, really great food. Everything is going to be probably a little bit cheaper than you would find in a restaurant, and you'll see food trucks in a lot of the major cities. I would say also just like California's cuisine is so diverse because we have such a large population of immigrants. And so you can find cuisine from like pretty much all around the world. I would say we have a really strong prevalence of Asian cuisines. So like a lot because California, like a lot of Asian immigrants come to California. So we have really good like Vietnamese, Thai, Indian, Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Burmese, like so much good food from different cultures. And you'll find a lot of those in the major cities.
Yeah, food trucks, such a win here, especially because, like, for me, I'm always trying to save money. I'm on such a big budget. My boyfriend and I will go to the food truck down the street. It's $2 a taco. We will load up on tacos and spend less than $20 for the two of us. I can't spend less than $20 for two people anywhere else in LA, you know? Like, It's for sure the budget friendly option and such good food. So I highly recommend. Don't be afraid of the food trucks because I know some people think that they're like sketchy or something, but here it's like a delicacy, you know, like they're cooking up some awesome stuff like on TV shows and things like that. They're a big deal. And then what you were saying about so many different kinds of cuisine, yeah, like LA, San Francisco, San Diego, they have Chinatown, Little Italy. Here we have Little Tokyo, Koreatown, there's Little Ethiopia. Like every single country has its own little sector of like the best food. It's so authentic because people from all over the world come to live here and they're making the food from back home and it is so good. So definitely expand your palate when you come to California. There's some really great options.
Yes. Besides like all this diverse cuisine, I think that you should definitely try In-N-Out. I know it's fast food, but like In-N-Out started in California. It is a fast food hamburger chain. It's now spread to like all around the West Coast and the Western United States. But like genuinely, it's so good. California locals, like you grow up going to In-N-Out, and it's just like the best fast food hamburger you're ever gonna have. So if you're visiting from out of town and you've never had In-N-Out, like try it. It's so good.
In-N-Out is the greatest. I just had it before filming this episode. I
True.
probably have it like 3 times a week. It's like pretty affordable and it's just so good. And whenever I hear anybody talk poorly about In-N-Out, I'm like, I don't really like you anymore. Like we're gonna scrap outside. Yeah, it's like just such a big deal here. And I remember when In-N-Out first came to Arizona when I was like, I don't know, maybe 10 years old. It was like the Pope came to town. Like
It's a big
everyone
deal.
was lining up and like the line stretched for miles. It's just I don't really know what makes it such a massive deal because there are other California chains and other chains in other places that just like don't hold the same weight as In-N-Out.
It's fresh, never frozen.
That's the key.
It's on that
That is
like
it.
sustainable, fresh, locally grown stuff. Like it is fast food still, so it's not like a healthy choice, but it's fresh. Like it's not, it's fresh, never frozen. Like that's what they say. Or maybe that's just the
I
In-N-Out
feel
propaganda. I don't know.
I feel good after eating it.
On that topic of like health food being such a craze in California, that's definitely true. Like we do have this emphasis. Like we literally have a whole food movement called California cuisine, which is about sustainable, locally grown cuisine and just using what's in season, not trying to like import things from really far away and just using what grows naturally in the area around you. So when you're in California, if you can go to a restaurant that focuses on California cuisine or like focus on eating local, like you will have such good food. And I don't think that you need to necessarily go buy like a $25 quinoa bowl to eat healthy. I think that you can eat healthy just by eating what's local because so much of the stuff, the produce, the nuts, the vegetables, like even the meats and the cheeses, like so much of it is produced like locally. And so if you go, like that's healthy eating, eating local. You don't need to go spend a ton of money at Earth Cafe. Like that's
God,
an
I love
LA
Earth
thing.
Cafe. I, I'm a personal fan of it, but you're so right. Like there's some places that just make such a fad out of healthy eating. Air One, for example, is the biggest scam on earth. I've gone one time. So Air One, for those who don't know what it is, it's like Whole Foods on steroids and everything costs a bajillion dollars. And they have these smoothies that are named after celebrities who have like designed the smoothie recipe or something. And it's like $25 for one smoothie. So we went one time and we split one smoothie because we're like, we're not gonna spend $50 on smoothies. And it was the most average smoothie I've ever had. So
It's a
don't
normal
fall for it.
smoothie.
It's just like it was like 3 ingredients. Like, come on. But like people here get really into that kind of thing and they're like more than willing to blow all their money on this really crazy expensive food. And I don't really get it. Maybe it's I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm not from here. But yeah, I recommend trying not to fall for that because they will get you on their prices and everyone just kind of justifies it for some reason.
Yeah, and like wellness is very popular here, but again, just like go to the farmers market. Like you'll find stuff from farms that were grown 30 minutes down the road. Like you will find an incredible bounty of things for so much more of affordable prices than if you went to like your health food grocery store in the city. Like go find the farmers markets, go to the farm, eat local, go eat at the farms. Like there's so many of them around California, and it'll be like such a fun way to eat and just like really see where your food is coming from. And it's amazing.
Completely agree. So, kind of sort of in that same vein, is there any special etiquette visitors should know before visiting California?
I would say like the number one thing to know before you visit is that California is so much more than LA and Southern California. Like I remember when I was 12, I went to London and I ended up playing on a girls basketball team in London. It's a story for a different time. But I said that I was from California and the immediate reaction was like, "Oh my God, like, do you know celebrities? Like, have you seen any, like, do you go to Hollywood all the time? Like, do you surf?" And I was like, that's like 6 hours from where I live. Like, that's so different than the California I grew up in. And so I think just knowing that, like, people get very defensive over where they live and where they come from. And especially there's like kind of an unspoken rivalry between like the San Francisco Bay Area and LA. Like, we're always like, we hate LA. And then LA's like, I don't even think about you. Like, I, what? Like, but I would say, like, when you visit, just like try to explore every part of the state. Know that, not all of California is like bitchy rich celebrities in Hollywood. Like it's so different and it's so worth exploring.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's just kind of something that happens. Like for me, being from Arizona, I've met people from the other side of the world who are just like, "Oh my God, you live like in the Grand Canyon." I'm like, "What? What?" Like it's so, there's always like that one thing that makes your state stand out. And I think for California, it's the celebrities, Hollywood. Like it's just such a massive industry here. So it makes sense. But you're right that it's like I said earlier, it's like its own country. Like there's so much to California, so much to explore. It could take many lifetimes to get through this whole state. So you can't just break it down to that for sure.
Yeah. Another thing that I would say on the topic of etiquette, this kind of is like similar to what we were talking about with Californians being very like health and wellness conscious. So weed is legal here. So you can smoke weed, you can go to a dispensary, you can buy marijuana. Smoking cigarettes is not really that common, I would say, like not as common as it is on the East Coast, not as common as it is in Europe. Like I don't typically see a lot of people smoking cigarettes in big cities in California just because I think like smoking weed is much more popular. And also there was just like a really big campaign to get people to like stop smoking cigarettes all the time. And so like won't really see a lot of secondhand smoke. So if you are a smoker or someone who needs to smoke cigarettes, like I would just be careful about where you're smoking because like sometimes people will get really angry at you if you're like smoking in a public area or smoking, on the street. But they don't get mad about smoking weed. So that's kind of the juxtaposition there.
Yeah, and kind of related to that, another big thing about California is that I think people are so into their fitness and wellness. And so like that's just not something I've noticed a lot is people smoking or like really engaging in a lot of like health detriment things, things that are detrimental to your health. And they take going to the gym so seriously. There's people running constantly outside, biking, they're like doing all this crazy stuff outside. So it's very interesting because I feel like America as a whole is, always worldwide considered the place where like obesity is a big problem and people aren't healthy. And I think Californians are very proud of like just maintaining good health.
Yeah, I think it's easy because we can be outside all the time. And so like people love
Exactly.
to just go like it's a very active state. We go surfing, we go skiing, we go running, like all that kind of stuff. My last point that I want to make about etiquette is that tipping is definitely a thing here. Typically, the minimum now for tipping in restaurants in a big city like San Francisco or LA is usually around 18%, which I know that seems high, especially when you consider that there's going to be pretty high taxes added onto that as well because we're in California. But that's just kind of the way it is. Like 18% is kind of the minimum at a lot of restaurants nowadays. If you want to be a little more generous, like 20% is pretty typical as well. But yeah, like I would try to tip at most restaurants, some coffee shops as well, and bars.
Yeah, tipping is a lot of people's livelihood, don't be cheap, I would say, like, anywhere, but especially, like, in California, people are paying so much to live here, and so many people work in the service industry, and I think they really heavily rely on getting pretty consistent tips, so if you can afford to go out to eat, you can afford to leave a 20% tip. That's what I always tell people, and I think you should stick to at least 20.
Yeah, I agree.
So we're almost at the end of our episode, and my experience in LA and California as a whole is pretty limited, obviously, compared to you growing up there. And I'm very green, but do you have any questions for me as a brand new Angelino?
Yeah, I guess like since you're a transplant, like I feel like transplants to California have a very different experience than people who grew up in California. So do you have any advice for people that maybe want to move to California or anything that I said that you were like, oh, I didn't actually know that being from out of state?
Yeah, well, I didn't know about the state at Jefferson, that's for sure. But yeah, absolutely. There's some things to consider. So the cost of living really is the highest in the country. Everyone always talks about that. It's true behind Hawaii, but in the continental US, California is the most expensive. So everything costs more from housing to gas to groceries. But luckily, many occupations adjust for the cost of living. So if you are moving here, hopefully your job pays you more than they would pay you if you lived elsewhere. So, it's definitely going to be pricier rent-wise for you, but hopefully you're making a little bit more. But like for me, there are certain ways to find more affordable housing. Like you can look at affordable housing programs. A lot of them you can apply if you make under 80,000 a year, which like for me being from Arizona, I'm like, man, making 80 grand a year, you could get a really nice expense. You could be like in the nicest place in the neighborhood for that. And here it's like, that's low income housing,
Mhm.
which is kind of a wild concept, just not being from here. But yeah, it's expensive, but it's not like not doable. But I mean, California is a state of 40 million people. And obviously it's not like everyone is doing great, but there are definitely ways to figure out how to live here. So if this has always been your dream and like the money is a deterrent, which it certainly was for me, I believe in you. You can make it happen.
Yeah, like minimum wage in San Francisco, I don't know about LA, but minimum wage in San Francisco, I think now up to 18 an hour. So it definitely like, even if you move here and you don't have the means to get like a really high paying job, even minimum wage jobs, like we try to make it so that you can still live here.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing is that there are so many people here and it's a little overwhelming, at least if you're moving to a big city like me. So that takes some getting used to. Just like moving from a place that has a lot of open space and open air, and you can go places where you're like the only person driving on the road, to being here where it's like bumper to bumper traffic all the time, and every restaurant, grocery store, whatever beach you go to is just going to be there's gonna be a lot of people there at all times, no matter the time of day or, the time of year. But you get used to it. And I think people are really nice in California too. I think it's a West Coast mentality. That's also kind of something that people might misconstrue with like the whole Hollywood vision and, people being uppity and superficial. I've never experienced anyone being outwardly rude to me here. And yeah, like I said, it's really crowded, but, like, really great people, and you can build a really good community here, I think.
Yeah, I would say like the parts of California that are like uppity or like snobby, that's the rich part of California. Like that's not all of California. Like
Right.
there's really cool culture in like all of the different areas. Like it's people aren't mean. Some people are snobby, but like just don't go to those places.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a huge wealth discrepancy too, which is kinda shocking sometimes because 'cause you'll be in, like, this neighborhood with gigantic, like, 20-room mansions, and then a block away, there'll be, like, this completely normal house that's not been updated in 50 years. Like, it's so strange like that too. Like, it's kind of a shocker. Where I'm from in Arizona, it's like, which part of town has, like, this kind of lifestyle, or, like, it's very different here where it's just such a mixed bag everywhere you go. So another thing, we talked about this momentarily, but traffic is rough in the big
Mhm.
cities. So you need to learn patience and just come to terms with the fact that you're going to be in some bad traffic sometimes. At least if you're living in LA, San Diego, or San Francisco, it's tough, but you got to just deal with it.
San
And
Francisco
yeah.
traffic is not as bad as LA traffic. That's my plug for San Francisco.
Quit talking so good about San Francisco. Yeah, no, it's true. When I was in San Francisco, I never experienced anything close to LA. So, some truth to that, unfortunately. The area you choose to live in really dictates your lifestyle because, like I said, the traffic is pretty wild. So, you're likely going to be in your bubble. Everyone talks about that here. They're like, oh, you're in this bubble or this bubble. Like, when I used to be in this beach city south of LAX, they're like, that's the South Bay bubble. And no one leaves the bubble. Like, they just talk about how, oh, I've never been to this part of town or this or this or this because I never leave the bubble. And that's just because it's hard to get far away in some of these places. So take your time researching where you want to be because you'll likely end up spending most of your time in like a 2 square mile radius.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, even for like the Bay Area as well.
But there's so much to do, and while there are those drawbacks with the cost of living and the crowds, like, I am never bored. I love living here so much. I've been so happy since moving from Arizona. Like, the fact that I'm here right now and it's 70 degrees outside and back home it's 110, like, it blows my mind that I lived there my whole life and couldn't even go outside in the summertime, and here it's just you're outside all the time. It's so, so lovely in that way. So, yeah. Yeah, the weather's just unbeatable, at least in Southern California. I know it's different in Northern, but it's just pretty mild throughout, and, there's something for everyone here, as cliche as that saying is. it's just never truer more so than it is in California. Like, it's a hub for outdoorsmen, music lovers, foodies, beachgoers, and so much more. Like, I've hiked the prettiest trails, I've photographed the most iconic national parks, like, eaten this world-renowned authentic cuisine in these little hole-in-the-wall restaurants, and seen the greatest live entertainment on earth in my very short time living here in Southern California. So I can't wait to see what potentially a lifetime of experience adds up to here in California.
That's so nice. I completely agree with everything you just said.
Thank you. I'm so glad we're both happy Californians. So to wrap up, Laura, what is the ultimate reason or reasons why people should visit California?
I think natural beauty, the ocean and the coast is amazing. The mountains are amazing. The redwood forest, the sequoia forests are amazing. So, like, the natural beauty in national parks is a huge, my number one reason that I like living in California. Number two, I would say the food, like what we talked about with the amount of different cuisines that you can try from places all around the world in California, as well as like California cuisine and this focus on eating, local and sustainable and going to all these farms and farmers markets. Like the food and wine here is really some of the best in the country, I think. And then also just like the history and different cultures of California. Like California is a state made up of immigrants, and we have so many different diverse areas. Everyone has different histories. Like you can go to all these museums about like seemingly anything. Like no two places in California are the same. And just the cultural differences that you encounter just even moving throughout this state are amazing. But at the end of the day, like we all live here and everyone kind of made California their own. And it's just a really, really unique kind of feeling.
Yeah, it's like no matter what interest you have, there's somebody in California who has built a business around that interest. It's so wild. There truly is something for everyone here, and it's unlike anywhere else in the world in that way, I think.
Yeah, and we didn't touch on this very often throughout the podcast, but I wrote a whole thing on like the best things to do in California. And it covers like, we didn't even talk about Disneyland. So it covers like amusement
True.
parks to go to, all the different food places that you should try, national parks, other like scenic natural areas that aren't national parks, like the big cities, the small towns, like all of that is in my guide to what to do to California. So check that out on Travel Lemming.
Absolutely. Well, that's all for today, folks. So, again, Laura has written dozens of guides on travellemming.com about all of the topics that we have discussed today and more. Like you said, I can't believe I totally forgot we didn't even discuss Disneyland. Like, there's just so much to cover in this humongous state. So, make sure to check out all the finer details of her California expertise. Go to travellemming.com, type in California in the search bar. You'll be good to go. You can also read about Laura's adventures around the world. She's got tons of content for you to sort through on the website. She has so many other perspective pieces and guides to other places that she's been. Like you said at the beginning of this episode, you've been to so many other awesome countries and states, and you did a whole year around the world that you just recently got back from. So, Laura is a very well traveled writer. So, once again, if you like this episode, like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a beat here at Travel Lemming. Thanks again, Laura. It was so fun talking to you about my new home state.
It was so fun to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in as always. We will see you next time on the Travel Lemming podcast.